our fears, the things that hold us back, if we're not working on ourselves personally, because those are personal issues. Are y'all with me on this? It's personal. When you're afraid to make that phone call, when you're afraid, when you've got that person right in front of you and they've just complimented your nails and you actually have kind of a lump in your throat to say what needs to be said. When you really want to reach out to that person who'll make a great team member and for whatever reason you stop yourself. Or when you found that, your business was here and now it's here and you feel very frustrated and you start to doubt. Those are not simply business issues, those are personal issues, because ultimately your success comes in how you respond in the adverse moments of your life. In those moments when you feel afraid, when you don't feel like you are enough. Am I the only one here that's ever felt like you're not enough? I'm sure I'm not. It might sometimes be that we think we don't have enough experience, or we're not attractive enough, or smart enough, or confident enough. And we don't say those things out loud, because then everybody would know what our insecurities are, right? So we spend this time trying to look like everything's okay, when sometimes it's really not. And when we are willing to be honest with ourselves and push through those fears, that's when we get to the next level. So for me, a big part of my personal growth came at the lowest point in my life, which was about 7.5 years ago, when I found myself going through a divorce. And of course, you don't get married expecting to be divorced, but there I was at 36 and divorced with no kids. And my dream had been being happily married with children. And I had a very hard time seeing what the vision was going to be moving forward. Sometimes when you feel like you've gotten sideswiped into your ditch, all you can see is what's right in front of you. And you can begin to believe that that is ultimately where you're going to end up. And this applies whether it's in our relationships, or it's in our finances, or you find your business is not exactly where you want it to be. It can be very easy to only look at where you are now. But your success comes when you can look up and you can see the vision. And when I finally got to the point where I could look up and see the vision, what I realized was I was not willing to let go of the vision I had had just because I'd fallen flat on my face. Are y'all with me on this? You have to make the decision that you're going to get up and not give up. And that's exactly what I decided to do. So half of you know that on the other side of that, what felt like tragedy for me was actually a gift. It was an opportunity to start over. And you might look in your own business and you might actually think, gosh, I thought I would be here and I'm here. Or maybe I was here and I feel like I've had a setback and maybe I can't get back to where I was, or maybe I'll never get to the vision that I had. And I'm here to tell you today is you can get to the vision, but you first have to have the vision. You first have to bat down all of the doubts and all of the lies that tell you that you cannot have what's in your heart to have. And you can feel silly sometimes hoping for big things when there's no evidence in front of you. Anyone here ever felt silly to even say your vision out loud because around you there was no evidence to prove that that vision was actually going to come to pass?
Yeah.
And I really felt that way, especially as I got older, and I didn't even want to say out loud anymore, yes, I'm hoping for children. Yes, I know, I'm at 38 or 39. Yes, I know I don't have a boyfriend. Thank you. You don't have to remind me of that, but I'm still hoping. Are y'all with me on this? Because we have to keep our hope. Hope is huge. It's really where we start. So I decided that even though I didn't know how it was going to happen, I had the vision. And I had the vision in such a way that I would behave as though I knew the vision was going to happen. And you might look silly to other people, but does that really matter? Because really the only people you look silly to are the people who've never had a big vision. The ones that are also scared, who are not moving forward. Because anyone who's done anything of significance has been silly enough to hope for something that looks bigger than their circumstances. And so I had that hope, and about almost 4 years ago now, my husband walked into my life, actually walked back into my life, We had gone to middle and high school together in a suburb of Denver where I grew up. We had not been friends, but we knew each other, and he saw one of my books and literally saw it in the airport, tagged it on Facebook, and said, should I get the book? And people laughed because the book's called Successful Women Think Differently. They were like, sure, Jeff. I mean, if you try hard enough, you could be successful women too. But that vision that I had ultimately came to pass in such an amazing way, down to the point that my husband's daughters have the names that I had written in my journal, that I would name my daughters if I ever had daughters. How amazing is that? So I just want to share with you all, because you didn't see pictures. That's Jeff. That's my happiness. Actually, I call this the world's best selfie because we took this picture ourselves. He sat the camera up on some books in the backyard and came and kissed me on the cheek, and that's what we got. So I have 2 bonus daughters.
Oh my gosh.
That's Sophia Grace on the left, which was full name I had written in my journal, Sophia Grace. And on the right is Addison Olivia. Olivia is one of the names that I had written in my journal. They just started 7th grade and 6th grade and 4th grade last week. And last year, right before I got here, Jamcon, although Jeff and I tried to have children, it has not happened for us, and we always knew we would want to adopt, and God blessed us to adopt a baby boy last year. And that is Alexander. And here's what I want you to know, and I didn't take this picture. My husband sent this to me while I was off speaking somewhere, and I was like, why is my child in the sink? But, you know, husbands. But I have to tell you, here's the thing. Sometimes your vision doesn't unfold the way you wrote it out. And what I realized is, even having had a miscarriage and all of those things, everything happened exactly the way it was supposed to. Because this is the child that I was meant to raise. He came to us in a different way than I would have expected. But this is my family, and I wanted you to see that because for me, that is the most challenging vision that I ever had. Because for me, I felt silly to keep hoping. But I continue to hope. And I'm wondering right now, what is it that it's time for you to hope for? What have you been afraid to hope for? What is the real dream that you have? And I'm going to share just 7 things really quickly. I've got even more, but I'm going to share 7 key decisions. This is from Successful Women Think Differently. And these are things that every successful woman needs to do. Decision number 1 is, I will not downsize my dreams. It is so easy for us, when things are not going the way that we want, to try to keep things within our control. So you know what your real dream is. You might not have actually said it out loud, but if anyone in here has a real dream that you're so afraid to admit, I actually challenge you to jot it down right now. If you feel the need to cover up your notebook because you don't want anyone else to see what you're writing, go ahead and do that, okay? But I want you to write down what the real dream is. You don't have to know how it's all going to come together. That's the beauty of it. I think a lot of times we feel like we have to know all of the answers before we can really dream that big dream, but you don't. And oftentimes we will downsize it, and the only reason that we downsize the dream is because we are afraid. We're afraid that we can't have it, and if we can't have it, we might be disappointed, and if we're disappointed, we'll be sad. We won't like the emotion that comes with it. So we just keep the dream small enough that we can manage it. Why? Because we don't want to be disappointed. So consider our time together this morning a big coaching session. I want to talk to you about some of the real issues, but I want to ask you some questions. And these are questions that, for some of you, you're going to answer it while I'm talking. For some of you, tonight, go back to your room, or when you're talking to your sisters and you're just thinking about the message, you might need to ask each other these questions. What's so bad about disappointment that you're willing to forego your dream in order to avoid it. I mean, what will really happen if you don't get the dream and you feel disappointed? You'll cry? Maybe. You'll be embarrassed. You'll avoid failing. I mean, what is it that happens when we're disappointed that causes us to forego the real dream? If you're going to live an authentic life, it is essential that you get used to the idea that sometimes you might be disappointed. But what might be a better way of looking at it? What if you said, yeah, I might be disappointed, but maybe there's something I will learn in the process. Maybe as I'm disappointed, I'll be able to step out of my disappointment and say, what worked? Because I didn't fail completely. There was something in this that worked. What do I need to keep and do more of, and what do I need to do less of? Who can I talk to that might be able to help me? But the first thing I want you to remember today is just don't downsize the dream. Anyone in here ever downsize their dream?
Yeah. Yes.
Only like 50 of you?
Oh no.
Okay, I love how the hands slowly, okay, Valerie, fine! Why did you make me raise my hand? Okay, because you know what? When we start being honest with ourselves, it's a lot easier to be honest with everyone else, and then we can deal with the real issues. So decision number 2, I focus on solutions and not problems. Solutions and not problems. It is so easy for us to talk about problems. It is easy for us to notice if our sales went down and just keep talking about how our sales went down. The bigger question is, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do differently? Who are you going to reach out to? How are you going to stretch out of your comfort zone to do something that's really bold and courageous? Because very often, it's easy for us, as we have accomplished whatever level of success, we want to stay in that comfort zone. But to maintain your success, you actually might have to get out of that comfort zone. But I've noticed that when we get out of our comfort zone, for some reason, we expect ourselves to keep feeling comfortable. Have you ever noticed that? Yeah. Why do you expect to feel comfortable? You're not in your comfort zone anymore. You got to get out of your comfort zone. And so that might mean there's some things that you need to learn. That might mean there's some people that you need to talk to. That might mean you might need to talk to some people that really intimidate you, or make you feel that perhaps this isn't the right thing for you to be doing, but something in your spirit's telling you, I need to reach out beyond my comfort zone. What would that look like for you? And I want you to ask yourself that. What would it look like for me to step beyond my comfort zone? Because ultimately the fear always shows up. But rather than focusing on the problem, the question is, what's the solution? Most people give up when they get to the problem, especially if they can't get an answer right away, especially if things have been easy in the past and now all of a sudden it takes more work. I remember those years in between going through the divorce and actually meeting Jeff. I mean, there are a lot of frogs before you get to your prince, right? And sometimes you have those moments. I mean, I actually would pray. I was like, I really don't want to date anybody for a long time, so I only want to go out with them one time. And if they're not the one, I want some kind of sign immediately so I don't waste my time. Are y'all with me on this? Yeah. And I wouldn't always get the sign right away, but sometimes I'd get signs and I'd be like, what is wrong with you? Like, why am I meeting people that just don't seem to fit into the criteria that I'm looking for, or just don't think in the way that I think? And I realized, this is a part of the process. We can expect we're going to get to the vision immediately, or we can expect that we're going to have bumps along the way, and when the bumps come, we go, you know what, I must be getting closer to the vision. This isn't the right answer, let me move on to the next one. So we have to focus on solutions and not focus on problems. Here's number 3. Decision number 3, I choose to be authentic. That means when I feel like I'm about to fall apart, when I feel like things are not going well, I'm willing to actually admit it, and I don't have to put up a facade. Resilience actually looks kind of messy. Have you noticed that? One of my favorite quotes is, fall 7 times, but stand up 8. You're going to fall. If you expect to fall and you realize that the only goal is getting back up, you can be authentic when you fall. You can say it hurts. You can say that you're upset. You can say that you're doubting yourself. And when you finally say those things out loud, you can deal with them. Are y'all with me on this?
Yes. Yes.
You can deal with it. It means admitting what's really going on. Here's decision number 4. I choose courage over fear. Courage over fear. I will never forget several years ago, part of my vision is to be able to avoid the cold altogether. I just don't think it's necessary to be cold. I was born in North Florida, but we moved when I was about 7. We moved to Germany, which is cold, and then we moved to Colorado, which, it's nice right now, but then it's cold, and I love Colorado, but I don't miss, shoveling snow. I don't miss wearing 3 layers of clothing, and that sort of thing. And so I thought, if we could avoid being cold, that would be tremendous in my vision. I mean, your vision can be that specific. You do know this, right? Your vision can incorporate the weather, okay? And so I was down in Florida. I was in South Florida and just decided to look at some houses, because it wasn't that I was about to buy a house, but let me tell you, you've got to have the vision first, even if you don't know when exactly you're going to get there. And so it's about 10 years ago, and so I was like, okay, there were some model homes. It was it was in Delray Beach, Florida, actually. And so looking at this home, there was one home that was absolutely amazing. So when you walked into the home, it was a courtyard home. So you think you're at the front, but you're really just at a gate. And then you open the gate and you walk in, and there's a courtyard, and then there's a front door. Are y'all seeing the vision? And so I'm in the vision. I'm walking along this courtyard. There's palm trees. Palm trees can be in your vision, you understand? There's palm trees. There's a pool. There's like a room up here that's like a little pool house. And I am just lost in my vision at this point. I'm sauntering up to the front door. I'm imagining myself living in this house. When it gets cold, I can come down and be warm again. And as I get to the front door, now I'm imagining, what does the inside of this house look like? And I get almost to the front door, and out of the corner of my eye, I see something move.
Oh, God.
Slither, actually. This is all that I recall, because the next thing I remember, I was literally running in the other direction, but I wasn't running in a straight line, because I knew the snake was making a beeline for me. You understand, when I saw that snake, I knew the snake was like, it's Valorie, I've been waiting for you. And he was coming after me. So I decided at that moment, I had a flashback. And this is what happens when our fears show up. We have flashbacks, and we do something psychologists call catastrophizing, okay? Catastrophizing is when you go from 0 to I'm dead, and everybody knows I'm dead. Everybody else I know is dead in about 10 seconds. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so when the snake was coming after me, I remembered around the summer of 1979 at my grandparents' house in South Carolina. There was a snake in the garden, and my cousin June explained to me that I probably wouldn't be able to handle it the way our grandmother had, because she grew up on a farm, and when she saw the snake, she literally took the hoe and killed the snake. No big deal. I'm not my grandmother, okay? He said, look, if the snake ever comes after you, I want you to remember, you have to zigzag, because that way the snake cannot catch you. So here I am in Delray Beach, Florida, 25 years later, and I'm running in a zigzag, because in my head, the snake is after me. And then as I'm running and I'm thinking, should I go to the right or should I go to the left? I decide to stop, because I'm thinking, I just left the realtor at the front door. And she's not giving me any instructions about which way I should go. I wonder if she's okay. Should I leave her back there with the snake? What should I do? Is anybody with me on this? Okay, so I'm not totally crazy. So I turn around, and she's still standing there. Do you want to see the house? And I was like, well, where did the snake go? She goes, I don't know, it went over there, somewhere. I said, but it's still in here, right? It's still in the court. Yeah, but you do understand the snake doesn't want you. The snake's just trying to get out of the way. I said, no, I don't actually understand that. But I'll tell you what, if you will just open the door, and I can just zip right into the door, I will come see the house. And so I gathered my thoughts, literally I had to stop, gather my thoughts, get my courage, and I literally sprinted into the house. Now, I tell you that because very often, when we have fear, it shows up like that. It's not actually after you. Whatever it is that you're thinking when you step out of your comfort zone, when you decide to have that bigger dream, when you realize that, you know what, it's time for me to focus on a solution and not the problem, the fear is going to pop up. And oftentimes you're going to run in the other direction. Some of you are running in the other direction right now. Some of you showed up at Jamcon wondering, should I run in the other direction? Should I stick with this? And I'm here to tell you, you just need to regather your thoughts and recognize these are normal thoughts. It's normal to have fears. But if you're going to be resilient, you have got to have courage over your fear. You have got to make a decision that this is the vision that I want, and I am going to stick with this vision, and I expect that fear is going to come, and I will not allow my fear to control me. Who am I talking to right now? Because some of you, it is a matter of simple courage for you to take your business to the next level, for your marriage to go to the next level, for your finances to go to the next level, but it's going to require you to have to face some of your fears and to say the fear is normal. I'm scared, but that doesn't mean I'm going to stop. And I might look silly when I'm scared, and I might do some weird things, and it looks like a zigzag, and it looks to other people like, what in the heck is she doing? But whatever you need to do to gather up your courage, to move towards your vision, is what you need to do. So I want you to just ask yourself, where does that fit for you in your life? Decision number 5 is I choose relationships intentionally, and I nurture them wisely. You have got to choose the right relationships. If there are people in your life right now, as you share your vision, whether your personal vision, your vision for your business, which really to me is a part of your personal vision, and they're not encouraging to you, you might just set a boundary that those aren't people that you talk to about your business. Because if every time you talk to them, you begin to doubt and you begin to get discouraged, then how is that helping you move towards your vision? For some of you, there are people that are so encouraging, but you're not nurturing those relationships. Many of you are meeting new girlfriends just this weekend that are going in the same direction that you are. Don't lose touch with them. Find out a way that you can coach one another. Figure out those ways that you can stay in touch, that you can share your goals with each other, that you can challenge each other, that you can say, here's how you can hold me accountable. How do you want me to hold you accountable? Are y'all with me on this? And so it's important that we choose our relationships wisely, because when we don't, we can find ourselves very focused, and then we can have someone come in who completely knocks us off course because they don't understand. So make sure you're choosing those relationships wisely. Here's number 6. I actively seek feedback and I use it to grow. Now this is kind of hard because sometimes we get feedback and we really don't like the feedback that we get. Have you ever asked someone, how do you like this outfit? Some of you do this to your husbands. And they've learned like a standard response. You look great, honey. That's all they'll say. You look great. And when they don't actually mean it, you get mad at them because they just keep saying you look great. And you're like, well, what do you mean I look great? You said that last time and I don't think I look really great. If you are asking people for feedback and you're not getting the feedback that you want and you push back, I want you to stop. I want you to say to yourself, do I really want the feedback? Do I really want to use it to grow? Or am I just looking for strokes? Because when we are resilient, what we're really looking for is feedback that enables us to get better. I'll never forget when I went to grad school at Florida A&M and I was studying journalism. And I had always been praised for my ability to write. I had been praised since the 2nd grade because Ms. Johnson told me in the 2nd grade that I was a good writer. And I believed her in 2nd grade, but I kept it with me, and now I was in grad school in my 20s, and I'm still believing her that I'm a good writer. And when I was getting really poor feedback, from one of my new instructors in graduate school. I was thinking she didn't get the memo from Miss Johnson. I'm a good writer, and after getting enough of those red marks on my papers, I decided I would go talk to my professor, Dr. Workman. And Dr. Workman said to me, you have some talent. She said, but you write with really long words and really long sentences. And I thought that was impressive, so I told her so. Isn't that impressive? She said, no, it's not impressive. You're actually studying to write so the average 10th grader knows what you're saying. You don't need big words. What you need is to be succinct. What you need is for people to understand you immediately and to connect with what it is that you're saying. I didn't like her feedback, but I needed her feedback. I don't think I would be on my 11th book if not for Dr. Gail Workman. It wouldn't have happened because I had a little bit of talent, but I needed someone to help nurture that talent. I needed someone to give me feedback, and I needed to receive that feedback. And I'm wondering where that fits in your life and in your business right now. You might be doing some things well, but are there some things that you could do better that would actually empower you to grow and empower you to grow your team and to be able to coach your team? Are there some blind spots that perhaps you have that are impacting how you interact with people, or what questions you're willing to ask? And if you're willing to step back and be honest about it, you can actually transform it. I've talked to you all a couple of times about this idea called mindset, and it's so tremendous. There's a book by Dr. Carol Dweck called Mindset, and all she says is that we have either a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. And many of us have a fixed mindset because we've been praised over and over again for what we do well. And so because you've been praised for being smart, or you've been praised for being talented, or you've been praised for being pretty, or whatever it is that's the gift that's been given to you, when you hit a moment where perhaps your talent isn't up to the challenge, perhaps you don't have the skill to meet the challenge, you actually feel like maybe you're not as smart or as talented or as pretty as everyone thought you were. We end up trying to defend our position. And so we aren't up for the big challenges because we're afraid that the big challenge will show that we're not as great as people have thought we were. But Dr. Dweck says, what if when we get to the challenge that's so difficult for us, we instead look at it and say, oh my gosh, this is an opportunity for me to learn something. This is an opportunity for me to grow. Look at where your business is right now and ask yourself, is there an opportunity here for me to grow? Yeah, it's going to cause me to stretch. Yeah, it's going to cause me to be uncomfortable. But is this the opportunity for me to grow to a level I never actually thought possible? And sometimes we have to go through all of those difficulties in order to get to that point. When I was on my journey, trying to get to that healthy, happy marriage, I wrote a tremendous vision. And I wrote it in the present tense. It's an exercise in positive psychology that's called Your Best Possible Future Self. I want every single one of you to do this exercise. All it means is that you write as though it's true right now, today. You write in the present tense who you are, what you do, what your business looks like, what your family life looks like, what you look like. And you write it in vivid detail. And you don't write it as, this is what I'm going to be. You write it as, this is who I am. If you've just got started in Jamberry and your goal is to be a team manager, you are writing your best possible future self as I am a team manager that leads my team in amazing ways, and here is where we are headed right now. Here is how we deal with the challenges that come along. Here's how we handle it when we have a dip in sales. You write everything in vivid detail. If you have a spouse that hasn't yet gotten on the Jamberry train, they're not that excited about it yet, you actually write that vision in vivid detail, and you include what it's doing for your family and how it's winning over your spouse. You write everything in vivid detail, and then you put it somewhere you're going to see it regularly. What this does is it trains your mind to believe that what you're hoping for is actually possible. And especially when we're going through difficult challenges, it's even more important. About a week and a half ago, right before school started, our oldest, Sophie, just walked up to me in the kitchen. I was cleaning up, and she came from downstairs, and she walked up to me so deliberately, I thought her dad had sent her down to talk to me. And she walked right up to me and she says, B-Mom. Now this is what the kids call me, B-Mom. B stands for bonus, because they are the bonus I got when I married Jeff, and I am the bonus they got. So they've got a mom, and they've got a bonus mom. So she walks right up to me and she goes, B-Mom, and I said, yeah. She said, I'm really scared about starting middle school. And I just stopped what I did. I said, you are? And I realized she just wanted to talk about it. So I said, okay, let me wrap things up. Let's go upstairs and have a girl talk. And she always smiles when I talk about having a girl talk, right? And so we go upstairs, we sit on the bed, and I said, what are you afraid of? And she starts rattling off the things she's afraid of. She said, well, I'm gonna have a new teacher, and he's new, and maybe he doesn't even know the ropes, which I thought was kind of an interesting thing to be afraid of going into the 6th grade. She said, and I don't know where things are, I just don't know what to expect. And I said, you know, Sophie, everybody going into 6th grade is having that experience. She kind of stopped. She said, oh, that's true. I said, what else are you afraid of? She said, well, I keep hearing about these mean girls. I said, yeah, mean girls. Yeah, I encountered them in 5th grade. They were awful. I'm telling you, they were terrible. She said, yeah, I'm kind of scared about the mean girls. I said, so what are you afraid they're going to do? She said, well, you know, like, what if one of them doesn't like what I'm wearing, or they are talking about me in some way? I said, well, what if that happens? What are you going to do then? And she had never actually thought about her answer to that question. She said, well, if they say something about what I'm wearing, I'm just going to tell them to mind their own business. I said, that sounds like a good plan. I said, what else are you afraid of? She said, well, my classes might be kind of tough. I mean, you know, I got straight A's last year, and I just don't know what's going to happen. I said, Sophie, I just want you to learn. If you get straight A's, that's great. If you don't, that's okay too. I said, you know, we're talking a lot about what you're afraid of. I said, why don't you tell me what you want this year? What's your vision for 6th grade? And this smile came over her face, and I realized this girl has a life coach for a B-Mom, because she said, vision. Can we create a vision board for 6th grade? And I said, yes, that's what we need to do, a vision board for 6th grade. She immediately ran down to the living room, picked up all my old magazines. She's like, yes, this page, live your best life. That's going to be at the top of my 6th grade vision board. Okay, then she had found something that said, you know, A+, A+, A+. She put that there. She found some teenagers that were smiling and happy. She put that there. Then she found a baby. And she stuck that on the vision board. I said, who's the baby? She said, well, I'm hoping for another sibling. I said, Sophie, look, this is your vision board. You can't put your vision for me on your vision board. Ladies, some of you need to stop and just create a vision board. Pictures that reflect what you want to see happen in your business and your life, so that you can see it every single day. I am telling you right now, in 2012, I created my first vision board. And on that vision board were things like, I had a lot of pictures of Florida on my vision board that were like the beach. I had a lot of pictures on there that were just love. I had a picture, I knew I wanted to do some television, and I had a picture on my vision board. The only thing I could find that was TV was the NBC logo. So I took that peacock logo and I put it in the middle of my vision board. And I found a picture of Italy, because I've always wanted to visit Italy, and I put it on my vision board. And then I found a picture of a couple that was getting married, and you couldn't actually see their whole faces, but it was the only picture I could find of a couple getting married. And so interesting, I at that point was not dating my husband, but it actually looks like us in that picture. That's what was on my vision board. Interestingly, that following year, I went to the beach and came to Florida more than I had ever been in my entire life, except when I lived in Florida. Amazingly, all of a sudden, after trying for 9 years to get on the Today Show, which is on NBC, I got a call from the Today Show on NBC to come be on their show. And then I kept getting calls, as a matter of fact, about 20-something times over the next 3 years, invitations to be on the Today Show. I'm telling you, if you will put things on your vision board, you don't have to know how they're going to happen. Just know that it's what you want. And if you will put it out there and put it in front of you constantly, suddenly you begin taking actions that line up with your vision. Now, I didn't get to Italy in 2013 after that 2012 vision, but I'm going on September the 3rd. We're taking a Disney cruise in the Mediterranean, and a couple of the stops are actually in Italy. And I'm telling you, some of the things that are on your vision board are going to take a while. They won't necessarily happen immediately, but they will happen. Here's another thing I want you to remember. Your vision can be as big and as vivid as you need it to be, but oftentimes we need to start small so we don't get completely overwhelmed. Has anyone here ever created a vision so big that you didn't even know where to start? Yeah. So I have a book coming out in November, and it's called Successful Women Speak Differently. I was so intrigued by this research that's come out recently showing that women in particular tend to underestimate themselves. We tend to, when we're applying for jobs, we don't apply unless we have 100% of the qualifications. Guys will apply if they have about half. They're like, yeah, I got enough. I mean, look at me, do this, you know? And the researchers actually call it, this is no slight to the guys, but what they say is that men have something called honest overconfidence. So when they take a male and a female, and especially in a business setting, who have similar skill sets, and they have them work on a particular project, the women will underestimate how well they did, and the men will overestimate how well they did. And it's not because the men are arrogant. They honestly believe they did better than they did. Now, as women, we can think, oh, that's terrible, but let me explain how that works well for men. If you think that you have more potential than you do, you're going to show up for things, even if you're not qualified. And half the time, you're going to be given the opportunity. And once you've got that opportunity, you know what happens? You learn the missing skill set that you had. But as women, oftentimes we have the skill set, but we hold ourselves back. We don't even show up for the opportunity because we disqualify ourselves. I did this. I had finished my degree in journalism. I wanted to be a television reporter, and I never sent even one tape to a television station. How do you become a television reporter if you won't even reach out to the newsrooms to say, hey, look at me? And my reason was that I feared rejection so much that I didn't even want to show up for the opportunity because I was afraid they would say no. And you know what? I gotta know. Now, things worked themselves out, but I tell you that because very often you are underestimating your own abilities. So as I was writing Successful Women Speak Differently, when I got near the end, I decided to interview several women who I'd met just along my journey who have been pretty incredible. Celebrity makeup artist Kim Lee, who was literally, took her 3 years to get into law school at Georgetown. When she got there, she figured out that she didn't want to be a lawyer. And so she's sitting there in her law school classes, and she's got her book open with her Vogue magazine hidden in between the textbooks, and she's thinking, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing with my life, and she made the very difficult decision to leave. And Kim, I met through a friend, but she's done my makeup for several of my book covers. Last year, Kim not only was at the Oscars working on actors who had been nominated, she was at the Grammys. She has worked on Venus and Serena Williams and Fergie and all of these amazing celebrities because she made the decision to step out and pursue what she was really passionate about. I interviewed my friend Yvette Cook, who is the CEO of a very large nonprofit founded by R&B superstar Usher. It has served over 30,000 kids who come from backgrounds where, you know, their schools are graduating maybe 60% of the kids that go through that program are graduating 100% of the kids. 98% of them are going on to college. And as I talked to her about how her communication has empowered her in her career. She told me about a client that would call up and terrorize the salespeople at the TV station she worked for, and then they decided after the client had terrorized the last client, who Yvette had actually found sobbing in the bathroom after hanging up with the client, they decided they would give that client to Yvette. And she ends up on the phone, and suddenly the client starts yelling and cursing, and Yvette said to me, "I don't know what came over me. I just very calmly hung up the phone." I said, "You did?" She said, "Yeah." She said, "She called me right back. She said, 'What happened?'" And Yvette responded, "Well, when you feel like you can calm down, then perhaps we can talk, so just call me back when that happens." And you know what? The woman never did it again. But the third person I decided to interview, I met a year and a half ago, when Jamberry had called me, and at that time I was unfamiliar with Jamberry, and I was invited to speak at the regional conference in Denver, which was absolutely amazing. And they said, "Yeah, we got to show you how to put these nails on. Let's give you one of our great consultants, and she can put the nails on." And that consultant is Julie Terrell. So Julie put my nails on, and I was like, "This is really great." And we've always kept in touch for this last year and a half, and she told me so much of her story, being missionaries in Mexico, and her sister introducing her to Jamberry, and how it just completely took off for her. And I said, "There's so many women. I just want women to hear about Jamberry." I've been wearing Jamberries ever since Jamberry called me a year and a half ago. And amazingly, I told Julie, I said, "I'm just interviewing the women. It's not about anything specific, because I want to pull out from you the nuggets that women can use for their own success." So as I listened to her story, here's what I heard about vision. She said to me, "I didn't start with a big vision. It was a small vision, because our budget was so tight. We had very little to work with. And all I wanted," she told me, "was enough wiggle room in my budget to buy some cheddar cheese." Y'all hear what I'm saying? It's $9 for cheddar cheese. I need extra money for cheddar cheese. Now, some of you are going, "I don't like cheese that much." Okay? But here's my point. It started with enough wiggle room in the budget. How many of you started Jamberry asking yourself, if I could just pay for soccer lessons, if I could just make the car payment? That's what I was told by one of you yesterday. And then I made the car payment. All of a sudden, my husband's like, "Hey, this sounds really good. What else could you pay with this Jamberry money," right? And so starting with the very small vision, if I could just make enough to buy some extra stuff that I want to put in the refrigerator. And then she said, and then it became, well, if I could make enough to pay off some debt. And today it's, you know what? We're doing great. How could we bless somebody else? The vision isn't about what we need now. The vision is about how we can impact the world. Think about that. If you will start small, yeah, you've got some really strong needs, but it's probably bigger than what you can see right now. But if you can start with that immediate need, that's what pulls you forward. Don't overwhelm yourself with a vision that is so large that you don't know where to start. Get clear with that small goal. So here's what I'm going to wrap us up with. There's some really great research around goal setting. It's called goal setting theory. I'm not going to share theory with you. I'm going to give you some of the really practical stuff. There are some foundational principles that we must all adhere to when we're setting goals. So you start your life with purpose. Your purpose is why you're here. Your purpose answers the very simple question, how are people's lives better because they cross paths with you? If they cross paths with you and somehow they experience more joy, you've lived out your purpose. My mission, my purpose is inspiring others, especially women, to live more fulfilling lives. So obviously I can do that when I'm standing up here on the stage, but I do it one-on-one too. I will never forget when I was dealing with my mom going through having a massive brain aneurysm. Mother had a massive brain aneurysm in 2001 while we were on the phone. And through that experience, literally lost all of her physical abilities. Her vision, her speech, she couldn't swallow, she couldn't sit up, couldn't walk, bladder didn't function. I had to learn all of these things. I had to feed my mom through a tube in her stomach. I had to learn how to catheterize her because she couldn't go to the bathroom on her own. And I stopped speaking for a time. I had to come off the platform because what I realized is that my mission at that point was inspiring one woman to keep going. And for her, it was having a clear vision that moved her forward. The vision wasn't all at once, I'm gonna be walking and running and doing all of these things. Her vision at that point was, I have a son who needs me. My mom waited 20 years between kids. So my brother was 8 at the time and I was 28. And she said, Valerie will be okay, she's an adult, but I have got to make it for Wade. I have got to make it for him. That was her clear vision at that point, and a vision that pulled her all the way through till today, where she can see and she can speak, and we don't feed her through a tube in her stomach because even though there was a 90% chance that she would never swallow again, you know what? She swallows, her bladder functions, she can sit up and she walks. She doesn't walk great, but she walks with a walker. She walks 2 miles a day at the Y using her walker. And just 2 weeks ago, you know, I didn't know what my mother was doing. I kept seeing these old pictures of her. And I was like, oh, that's a great picture, that's great. She said, you know what? I was talking to my pastor's wife, and she said, Lee, I want you to get the pictures from before the aneurysm. Because I still believe that you can be 100% recovered. So I want you to see that vision of where you were before you lost your abilities. I want you to see yourself completely healthy and whole. And I want you to put that in front of you. So I was in my mom's office the other day, and what was around her were pictures of herself when she was able to walk without a walker, when she was completely healthy. I'm not trying to make y'all cry, I'm sorry. But this stuff, it's emotional because it works. Vision is powerful. Do not walk away from this conference without a clear vision of where it is that you're going. I have found, and it is so very true, if you don't have a vision, if you're not living your vision, you're probably living somebody else's. Because people will find a way to make you help them reach their vision. But when you get a clear vision, you can be clear about who needs to be in your life and who doesn't need to be in your life. You can be clear about what skills you need to develop and what skills you need to use and build on. So here's the first thing I want you to remember. That's a foundational principle. Values drive your goals. You start with purpose, you get clear about your vision, and then you set individual goals within that vision. So researchers in goal setting make it really clear, if our values don't drive our goals, we don't stick with them. And when I say values, I simply mean the things that are important to you. It could be family. It could be excellence. For some of you, you love fashion, and that is a value for you. Did you know fashion can be a value? Did y'all not know this? I think it's one of your values, otherwise you wouldn't be so attracted to Jamberry. Beauty may be one of your values, and that's really okay. So it's important to say, what are the things that I hold dear? What are the things I'm willing to fight for? And are those reflected in my vision? I love learning about other people and other cultures, so of course my vision includes travel. Family's really important to me, so of course my vision included being happy and healthy in a marriage and raising children. That's just a part of who I am. So your values have to drive your goals. But the second is this: your motivation drives your perseverance. Motivation drives perseverance. You can either be intrinsically motivated or extrinsically motivated. Extrinsic motivation is all the external stuff, and it's good to have, right? So I know some of you you're externally motivated by the trips. I loved that video right before I came on, right? And that's extrinsic motivation. It's really important. It's the rewards that we get. It could be the money that we get. It can be the recognition that we get. But you have to find your intrinsic motivation, the thing that comes from inside. Who is it that I want to help through this business? What is it that I love most? Keep tapping into that. It's so important because intrinsic motivation is what keeps you going when things get difficult. When it gets really hard, you've got to find that thing that you're passionate about because that's what's going to keep you going. So values drive our goals, motivation drives perseverance, but then thirdly, hope creates goals. What is it time for you to hope for? When we stop hoping, we start settling. We start settling for less than what we really wanted, and we start burying the dream, and the dust kind of builds up, and sometimes we begin to forget what the dream even was in the first place. Are y'all with me on this? And so you've got to be able to dust that dream off. And that means giving yourself permission to hope for something. We can't create a vision without real hope, and real hope takes courage. It takes courage. Are you going to muster the courage to be able to hope for something that is beyond your wildest dreams? When we do all of that, it reflects something that Sir Richard Laird said. Sir Richard Laird is an economist in Great Britain. And he said something I think is really profound. He said, we cannot be happy without setting for ourselves goals. Children test themselves constantly. They want to see how fast they can run, how high they can jump. Prod any happy adult, he said, and you will find a project. So when we talk about your vision, what we're really talking about is your happiness, which takes us full circle. Remember what I said in the beginning? The happier we are, the more equipped we are for our goals. Positive emotion actually empowers us to reach our goals. The research actually shows those people who are happier actually make more money, are more likely to get promoted, they're less likely to get sick, they actually live longer. Sometimes we think, hey, what does happiness have to do with my success? Because we think that success is going to make us happy. But that's not actually true. I mean, we might get a little boost when we get some success, but it's actually the other way around. Happiness causes success. Pursue a vision that's going to make you happy, and suddenly you find yourself successful. Begin thinking about the people around you who could really benefit from knowing about Jamberry. Think about how it could change their lives in the ways that it's changed your life. That becomes that happiness extended out that causes success. So as we wrap up, I just want to share with you a few things that will empower you to be happier. I always like to end on a happy note because I really believe that happiness is at the core of what we're pursuing here. You pursued, whether you realize it or not, you pursued Jamberry because you thought it would make you happier. You thought it would give you something that would make you happier, whether it was money or recognition or helping your family to be more stable financially, or you were just looking for something that looked like fun to do. You thought it was going to make you happier, am I right? Or the rest of you all thought it was going to make you less happy. What was the reason? Okay, all right. So when I wrote Happy Women Live Better, I identified these 13 happiness triggers. Some of them you may remember. I haven't shared all of them. But connection is one of them. It's that one-on-one time. Men tend to bond side by side, which simply means, they love to play. Haven't you noticed that? The guys love to play, whether it's video games or basketball or golf or, boys wrestle. Hopefully your husbands aren't wrestling their guy friends. But, guys tend to bond side by side. In fact, if you're a wife, try wrestling with your husband. Play with him. He'll like it. You're like, what's going on? You're like, some of y'all are like, yeah, we tried that. I didn't know there was research on that, Valorie, but yeah, there is. So men bond side by side. We can learn a lot from that. Some of us just need to learn how to play. Do you know what I'm saying? Some of you never ever play. You're way too serious. If you can just make a game even out of some of your goals that you have, it'll boost your happiness and it'll actually help pull you forward. But my very favorite one, if you all don't remember this from last year, I want to remind you of it, is simply smiling. Smiling. We think we smile because we're happy. But smiling actually makes us feel happier. In fact, it connects us to other people. I want you to notice when you're walking by people and you're not smiling, and then you're like, nobody ever smiles at me. Mm-hmm. If you smile at them, you know what they'll do? They will smile back to you. It's called complementarity. I love how scientists have all these fancy words. All it means is that when you do something, people tend to reflect it right back to you. So here's what we know. If you will smile, and you'll have a full-on smile. You know the one when you start to look kind of funny, like your cheeks are puffed up and your eyes are crinkled? That actually releases serotonin and endorphins to the brain. Now I know at Jamberry we don't need a lot of help with that because you guys seem to release a lot of serotonin and endorphins anyway, but when you get back home and you don't have 3,000 women screaming with you, you may need to produce some on your own, okay? So I just want you all to try this with me. Just smile, show me your teeth. And I want you to, while you're smiling, smile. I'm looking at you, smile. Gosh. Okay, now while you're doing that, I want you to think about somebody who just gets on your nerves. Try to do that while smiling. It's really hard to do, isn't it? Some of y'all are like, right? All right, so here's the exciting thing. Even if you don't feel like smiling, the research shows if you'll just put a pencil between your teeth, you will get the same effect. You understand what I'm saying? If you're just in a really bad mood and you're like, if you don't even have a pencil, I want you to do this with me. Make a hard E sound. E. So you'll look constipated, but you will still release serotonin and endorphins to the brain. And sometimes when we get stuck and we're feeling down, we have to be very intentional about boosting that positive emotion. Are y'all with me on this? All right, so I want you to remember it starts with purpose. Why are you here? How are people's lives better when they cross paths with you? Then it goes to vision. Paint a vivid picture. If you don't have a vision board, before next week, I want you to create your vision board and I want you to put it where you're going to see it. Whether it is on the bathroom mirror, in your wallet, in your closet. Some of you need to just take a picture of it and make it your screensaver on your phone. See that vision constantly. Because if you can identify your best possible future self, you can walk directly into your vision. God bless you. Thank you.